Lord, we do thank you and praise you once again for this time that we've set aside to invest in our present and to invest in our future as we prepare to become one, to join with our partner and our partner with us into this covenant of marriage. We thank you that this is a safe environment, Father, for us to look at our own processes, our own perspectives on ourselves as well as on our partner in this relationship called marriage, with a purpose and a goal in mind to gain a high level of understanding so that we can apply these principles to enjoy each other in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
We started last week and we watched the DVD portion of part 1 on learning how to fight fair. Just another title or phrase to look at this area of conflict and how to resolve it, how to understand it, and I think we had a wonderful class last week, and one of your exercises was your hot topics, and I think that we all do have them. We're also going to go into an extended part of the financial. So I believe that I gave you guys a copy of Marriage and Money, Part 2, and so we'll get into that shortly. But this is something that can cause conflict. Studies show that this is one of the ones that causes the most, and so we're going to try to bring a level of balance and understanding so that we can all apply these principles that will help us in our future. Amen. So we're going to go right to the DVD and watch the second part of learning how to fight fair, and then we'll make some comments about this one, about this lesson, and then we'll get into the financial piece of this part of our class.
From research.
Yeah, here's what we know. We know that conflict has a destructive power if you don't know how to navigate it. In fact, we know that they can predict with a 94% accuracy rate if a marriage will succeed or end in divorce based on nothing else but watching a couple fight.
Yeah, Dr. John Gottman at the University of Washington, yeoman work on this to really highlight 4 things he said we need to avoid in conflict. He calls them the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse.
Yeah, because there are 4 elements that when they happen in our fights as a couple, they really do destroy the relationship, the connection between us.
What's the first one?
Yeah, the first of these is simply criticism. That example of me coming out 20 minutes late, we have to speak in an event, and then I drop all of our handouts in the mud. Well, he's going to have some feelings in a moment like that, and that's only human. But when I open the door, if he says to me, where have you been? You always make us late. That's a criticism, and criticism always impacts the relationship.
Yeah, and it's what ignites a conflict. Exactly. And by the way, the big difference between criticism and complaining. Do you know complaining is actually good for your relationship? Isn't that good news for all of us whiners? Complaining is good for our relationship. Why? Because it helps us kind of air stuff out without kind of attacking that person.
It's not at all destructive, but it's whenever you really hurl that critical comment that you destroy.
And criticism almost always begins with you. You always make us late. You never pick up your clothes. Whereas complaining almost always begins with I feel so frustrated when we're late to something that really matters to me.
I think something that we can work on, both of us can work on, is when we're communicating, not pointing fingers, telling how we feel. I feel very on the spot when I'm accused of something when I wasn't intending that. So I'd rather been told how he feels because I have to validate him in that. So I think that's something that we both can really put some energy into, is how we're communicating to each other and how we're displaying our love in the midst of the fact that we feel one way. Then tell me how you feel instead of tell me what I've done wrong.
Number 2?
Defensiveness. You can kind of see how these work together, because anytime someone, says a critical comment, you think, well, wow, if I just explain it away, I'll defend myself and you'll know there's no reason for a conflict. But what Gottman said is that defensiveness always escalates the conflict. It never brings resolve like you think it will. It just escalates the fight. And so defensiveness is always a bad thing.
And some of us become so well schooled in defensiveness, it's just our natural posture. And anytime we hear a critical comment, it's just boom, we're like jellyfish in armor, and we put up the defenses, you know? And it becomes about anything, you know?
Yeah.
Have you seen my car keys? Oh, I didn't touch them, you know? And so we're just defensive by nature.
True.
Well, that leads to number 3, which is...
Contempt. And contempt is similar to criticism, but it's a... Because you're not just blaming someone, now you're diagnosing them, okay?
Right.
Let me tell you, no, it's not your fault, but let me tell you what's wrong with you. You know, you always make us late because you're so irresponsible. You know, you really don't care about sharing. Whatever it is, they're going to diagnose you. You know when you're the object of contempt because you feel about an inch high, you know?
It's usually sarcastic, you
Yes.
know, oh, way to go, Einstein, hey, that's brilliant, you know, that kind of thing. Or sometimes even the rolling of the eyes, you know. That's one of the most contentious things that we do.
Yeah, actually, even more than verbal things, our body language can reveal it.
Well, number 4 is?
Yeah, the final one is stonewalling. And I love this word because it's a great word picture. It's like your heart has become like a stone wall. You're shut down. You're not listening anymore. You're not trying to connect. You may be physically in the room, but you're just shut down. You've got this expressionless mask over your face, and you're done.
And men tend to get to this faster than women do,
Yes,
right?
they do.
We have learned how the other one likes to argue. My wife is, let's sit down and work through this and talk. And I am, okay, I've had enough, and I'm going to go in the room. I don't want to talk to you. I'm not going to talk at all. And I don't necessarily tell her, okay, I've reached my limit, or I'm close to reaching my limit. I just leave.
Several months ago, we just totally broke down, and we kind of had it out a little bit. We haven't had any huge fights where we storm out the door or anything. We're pretty good about dealing with that and not abandoning the problem. We do stick to it and pound it out right there.
One thing I have learned is that I can't just leave. I need to let her know, okay, I need a break, or I can't talk about this anymore, or because me leaving meant something totally different to her than it meant to me, and it hurt her. So I have to be very mindful of that.
So sometimes it's just a matter of reminding each other that we are on the same team and we have conflict and we have differences of opinion, but let's see if we can figure it out.
So these are the 4 things we want to avoid in conflict, but if you have some of these, you know, you're normal. We're going to have
Don't
these
get
from
too
time
nervous.
to time. What we're looking for are people that don't know how to kind of turn this off, how to kind of short-circuit it. And that's when we get nervous, right,
Yeah.
folks?
And we
Because-
need some tools to enable us to do that.
A couple other real quick things. One is called the conflict card. And
Yeah.
this is so
This is really
easy.
simple because it really does save you. It helps you to pick and choose your battles wisely, and all it is a rating system for how deeply you feel about things in the midst of conflict.
Right, to rate, how are you feeling about this on a scale of 1 to 10?
Yeah, like what color should we paint the kitchen?
Or how long do the in-laws stay for
Exactly.
the holidays, whatever it is. And so we just rate the depth of our disagreement. And number 1 says, I'm not enthusiastic, but it's no big deal to me. And it goes clear down to number 10, which says, over my dead body,
Right.
exclamation point, right?
Because sometimes, you just kind of fight to fight. You just kind of want to fight. And you're like, okay, just a second. This is really just a 2 for me, And I'm sorry, if it's a 5 for you, sure. So,
But
that's the-
what do you do when you're both 10? See, you never told us that.
A lot of times you'll get locked in an argument and get really expressive about something, and you may sound like you really care about it, but if you're asked to stop and really think about it, nah, it's only like 3 for me. And if it's something you feel deeply, you may not have expressed it. And I want to honor that. And that's what's good, because you don't end up fighting over things that you don't deeply care about.
And here's the last thing we want to put in your toolbox, and it's simply called the XYZ formula. And it goes like this. In situation X, when you do Y, I feel Z. This is a way to turn a criticism into a complaint. In situation X, when you do Y, I feel Z. When we're driving down the road, and you turn the radio station without asking me, I feel like I don't even matter to you. That's very different than saying, who made you king of the radio, right? In situation X, when you do Y, I feel Z. And you'll read more about that in your book as well. So, friends, think about this. If it's possible, as far as it depends on you, try to live at peace with each other.
think some real good things that I want to point out before we move on. I think I like that X, Y, and Z. Now once again, these are tools. You know, so when you're putting a DVD together, when you're putting a book together, it's polished, it's edited, but believe me, if you come to a person like me or you come to a person like her, Angel, her, that was a nice way to say that, you come to, you know, a counselor, then we're going to use tools. We may not say exactly what they're saying. So I'm saying all of that to say, let's, you know, let's place some emphasis on the tools and this tool that you have that'll be yours for life. This textbook, this exercise book, it's a tool. And so how you interpret, how you use the X, Y, and Z, you know, I mean, just a real good example how he used about changing the radio station. You know, as opposed to, is your name the only name on title on this card? You know, and how did that come out of me changing the radio station? But there must be a pattern in my life of changing the radio station, and it's hurting your feelings, and I'm not getting it, so boom, you have to say something like that, or I have to say something like that. And normally, when we do stuff like that, we start going down a road. Well, turn around, I want to go back home. I don't even want to go anywhere. It's hot. It's going to be crowded. Well, yeah, Disneyland is always going to be crowded. And hot. Especially if you go in the summer. But you notice how we can do something can just mess something up. You know. And so, whether you use it technically, the X, Y, and Z, or whether you create your own style, as long as the end results are the same, it's beneficial for both of you gaining a level of understanding, you're moving in the right direction. If you totally eradicate all of these, you're going to struggle. You're going to be in the emotional quicksand of marriage, and you're going to be gulping for breath. And if you've seen anybody in a swimming pool who's maybe drowning or think that they're drowning, they're grabbing their cousin, their brother, their mama, whoever, and you know what? It's preservation. I have to preserve my life at any cost, and if that's putting you under, then that's what I'm going to do. And sometimes we can do that in our relationship. So if it's me preserving my emotions and my hurt because I'm tired of being hurt, then I'm going to learn how to put you down even more. And so then what really was a small conflict that could have been addressed with some of the small tools, you know, now we have to get the emotional, the marriage anesthesiologist and put us both under, because now we need major emotional surgery. Because we just tend to always handle problems like that. Open your book to page 122. I just want to go over just these words, just one more time. Watch out for criticism. You know, watch out for criticizing. Contempt. You know, you know what, babe, I think when, I think I told you guys how my wife used to get flats. Did I tell you guys that story? When we moved out here, and this is not contempt or anything, baby. But now, you know what, looking at this, I think that I was acting in contempt towards her. So we moved out here in the Inland Empire, and you know, in 1987. And so my wife would just, seems like there was a period of time when she would seem like to get a flat tire at least once a week. And so I didn't know that. Now watch what I used to do when she would say, babe, you know, I got a flat. Can you come fix the tire? I'd say, I'd shake my head. Please. You got what? Ladies, what is that? How does that feel? Not good. Huh? And so I didn't realize that that was really, now I couldn't even spell contempt maybe at that time. But now looking back, I think I went from criticism to, because then I hardly ever got flats.
Right. Never.
And I would make, one time I said, are you driving where they're building houses and they just threw a whole bunch of nails in the street? That's contempt. That's like, everybody drive their car? I wonder, does every husband have to fix up his wife's flat all the time? Like, and I didn't realize me shaking my head.
Oh, your head shaking wasn't bothering me because you still have to go fix the tire. Okay, you're gonna still fix it, right?
But just some of you ladies said, "Wow, that was." I didn't realize that was that.
Time, like, what's wrong with you? Why?
Boom. What's wrong with you?
When you see a nail on the street, you just, oh, I gotta get that nail in my tire.
See, we're laughing now. Thank God we're laughing now. But I used to say, man, it's like you saw the nail and you just made a beeline for the nail. I got to get my flat quota. So, just be careful. And so I think they just gave some good examples. Defensiveness. And sometimes defensiveness can start out as really being, innocent and very, very legitimate. But if you find yourself always having a reason why something didn't go out right, or instead of saying, okay, let me kind of just look at my own self and see if I can eliminate some of these reasons so that it just even doesn't happen. But it's just natural for any of us. It's just natural if somebody takes a swing at you to duck or put your guard, something. But defensiveness can really be ugly as well. And then stonewalling. And statistics prove that we men can probably do it more so than women. Women can stonewall, but we men can do it probably more often than women can. Now, you may have heard, like he said, well, walking away. There are some good things in walking away. But like they said, if you're going to do it, say, well, you know what, I need to take a break right now. I don't see where, this is kind of going to get resolved. I'm misunderstanding, or I'm getting a little upset. Let me just take a little break. Let me take a little break to think. But just getting up and leaving. Now, let's play the devil's advocate. Because, this is not a science, and I don't want you to be mechanical in applying these principles. As you get to learn one another, there may be times when I may not verbally say, you know what, right now I can't handle it, I don't want to talk about it. I may get up and go get some water. And so, as you learn each other, don't hold each other so accountable that, well, remember what the book said, remember what they said in class, and make each other say these particular things all the time. In learning each other, sometimes I'm going to interpret that she's not stonewalling if she gets up and leaves. or if I get up and leave. So I don't want us to hold each other to such a stringent rule, that, because we heard something, that if we see something along those lines, we always interpret it as that. That's not necessarily true. Are you going to have conflicts? Absolutely. It's inevitable. Because we just don't always agree on the same things. We have different perspectives, and sometimes we may spend the rest of our life not agreeing on certain things. But as I stated before, loyalty doesn't require agreement. I think that we need to agree on the essentials. I'm going to challenge you because I know it's possible. I'm going to challenge you not to argue in front of your kids. I've heard sometimes I can't believe what people do in front of their kids. And I'm going to challenge you not to argue in front of your kids. I'm going to challenge you to hold it together enough to pull each other in the room. Babe, can I talk to you in the room? That doesn't mean when you get in the room that it's a 10.7 earthquake and then you come out smiling. It's achievable. It's both of you, it's both of us determining that to the best of our ability, we're not going to let a situation get that far. I remember, the one thing that I think I was consistent. I used to be consistently mean with the kids. And so, I don't know if I told you this story before, but if I did, it bears repetition. It goes with this thing about not arguing in front of the kids. And so I remember that my son, when he was young, and Pastor's two boys, they were all around the same age. Adam was just too young at that time. Well, he probably was still involved as well. But they used to run, during children's church time, because as pastor kids, our kids are at service the whole day. So, they can't, how many times can they learn about Jesus, the same lesson? I love Jesus too, but they do have a kid's mind. And so they would rip and run through children's church and make noise and stuff. And so one of the teachers said, Pastor Kenny, we told the kids to stop, and they wouldn't stop. And it was my boy, Nathan, and Caleb. And so I said, why are you boys running through the classrooms and making all that noise? You guys ever seen that? That my weird thinking, that was like saying a bad word to me. So now I can't whoop nobody else's kid, but I can whoop my kid. And so I remember saying, okay, you sit right here, because it's Sunday, I'm at work and I had to go do some things. I'm going to take you over to the office. And so I think Donna was walking through children's church, and so she was wondering why Adrian was sitting over here, and so he told her. And so I had really begun to work on my behavior with my kids. And so I remember this thing she said, you know what, babe, you have made some strides. And she said, don't let this one incident destroy all the work. Because sometimes a criticism and contempt can wipe away weeks and months of doing good. We can almost have amnesia of the good that someone was doing by, you know, a strong criticism or contempt. And she said it 2 or 3 times. And I said, this boy is going to do what I tell him to do. He is not going to disrespect adults. And she said, babe, don't let this one incident destroy all the hard work. Now, the one thing that I want to commend her is that even though, and you know, mothers can be protective. I mean, you know, they're our kids when things are fine. It's their kids. Fellas, give me a little bit of help in here. You know, when things are not going fine. Wait a minute. Didn't you just say ours last week? How did they become yours this week? But I remember
she don't want to mess with my kids.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding.
No, she's not. You know that. You know the. Did you guys see one of the X-Men when that lady had those things? She got some. No. Say, Pastor King, what are you talking about? But you know, I want to commend my wife in that there were definitely times when maybe she probably should have said something and really flew off the handle in front of the kids. She'd always say, babe, could you come into the room?
What did you say?
You would always ask me to come to the room.
Before you said that about flying off the handle.
Yeah, I said that you have never. There were times when maybe you could have flew off the handle with me being mean, the consistency that I was in being mean.
Oh, I thought you said something else.
No, I was giving you a compliment.
No, I thought I misunderstood.
I was on the video, I was giving her a compliment.
I was on the defensive. No.
See?
No, I thought he said I went off in front of the kids,
No.
which I never do, never have. So.
You know, listening. No, we're good. So I want to challenge you. You know, I want to challenge you. And I'm not. It's easier said than done.
Oh, I'm sorry, I interrupted. But you were saying we would always. See, we really practice this part of what we preach. This part is not so hard to do with us. We did not argue in front of our kids. That was his point. We would always, you know, take it into the bedroom, babe. You know, leave it. They didn't even know anything was, you know, going on. And then once our kids got older, and I talked to them about it, we're like, we never knew you guys argue. I mean, they would know if he did something I didn't like it, they might have known that, but they never heard us discuss it or raise our voice at each other or anything. In their minds, they didn't think we argued. I'm like, oh yeah, we did. We did.
Argued, yes.
And, you know, we would go in the bedroom and we wouldn't raise our voice because sometimes you go in the bedroom, close the door, and they still hear you, especially if they're inching around the door, you know. But we, you know, made it a point. Especially a lot of our heated arguments was about them, so we certainly didn't want them hearing. You know. So we've done that over the years.
And I don't want to give us any credit. You know, I just think it's a combination of us realizing the importance of not doing it. You know, the God in us, watch how I say this, the God in us that we obeyed. Notice how I said that? The God in us that we obeyed. There's God in all of us. We just have to choose whether we're going to obey or not. You know, and so I think our kids have benefited from it. You know, and it's helped us as well. You know, sometimes when you're going through difficult times, sometimes you have to take into account all of the other good things. And when you look at all of the other good things, you can say, okay, although I'm upset, although I am pissed off,